Hey everybody, welcome to another episode of Dissecting Diddy, our weekly wrap of the Sean Diddy Combs racketeering conspiracy and sex trafficking trial. There have been so many fireworks this week, and as we're doing this podcast, we have Kanye West, Ye, who's walked into the courthouse, and from what I understand, will be walking out shortly. And I'm saying all of that to say one of our guests, Gentrix, Shanga, who is a producer for NewsNation, was going to be joining us, but hopped off so that she could get video of Kanye walking out. But I am still honored to be joined by Candace, Kelley, our esteemed legal analyst, and my co-host, Nicole Johnson, to talk about everything that's been going down in court this week. I mean, seriously, this is a high stakes case. You know, Sean Diddy Combs could go to prison for the rest of his life. So his legal team is fighting literally for his life as the prosecution continues to put on its case. Candace, I want to ask you, we had Jane, who is an ex-girlfriend of Diddy, who is testifying under a pseudonym on the witness stand for several days. How would you characterize her effectiveness for the prosecution on direct, and what progress, if any, the defense was able to make in cross?
I would characterize her direct as confusing. And I think that's because she was confused along the way, and she was confused in recounting the story. You know, there were a lot of things that did stand out, one of them being that an MO was established. For example, the prostitutes that she talked about and the money exchange, that was really made clear that certainly we have prostitution for crossing state lines. Internationally, we also have drugs involved. She talked about carrying drugs on 2 occasions across state lines for Sean, and also mentioned KK, Christina Karam, and talking about how she knew about that. So I think that in terms of some of the things that we've already heard, she corroborated. But when we think about her testimony specifically, first day, second day, some very good points made in terms of the buildup in her relationship. But I think what happened after, even after she talked about the violence, when you start hearing about a contract, a love contract, where somebody gets $10,000, and you start hearing about the fact that her attorneys are still being paid by Sean Combs, and her still calling Sean Combs her partner and showing love and affection, she, out of all of the people who have taken the stand to talk about that they were in relationship with them, was the one who just, after a while, it's like a horn that you hear on an alarm in a car. After a while, you just it kind of fades out. And for her, I think it was a little bit of, what's that?
I said desensitized.
Exactly, desensitized. And so I think that that's what happened with her. She probably could have left the stand one day early, in my estimation.
Okay, hold on. Nick, before you weigh in, we have Gentrix Shanga, who's a producer for NewsNation, who is back with us. She just, I'm guessing, you just finished getting Kanye walking out of court?
Do you see me sweating? Do you see me sweating? They told us one exit, then he ended up in another. But yes, Kanye West, Ye, did arrive to court today about 11:20 a.m. There were rumblings that yesterday he was here, but we didn't know, you know what I mean, and that he might be here today. And then obviously it was confirmed. And as we all know, Kanye is a big supporter of Diddy, Sean Combs. And so he came and he was able to actually get into the courtroom, into the overflow where I was before I walked out to, type up notes for our network. But yeah, crazy moment. Everybody, it's Kanye. Like, when do you get an A-lister coming to federal court that's not, indicted or something? And so everybody was very excited to see that. He was wearing a cream colored suit, head to toe. He came in a black Maybach. It was really quick because now it's only 12 p.m. and he's already exited out. He wasn't an overflow. I didn't get a chance to, see like why they didn't put him into the main room. Usually friends, family, whatever are in the main room. But according to some of the other press that I was talking to, they put him in the overflow.
What was the mood in the overflow?
He said, well, from a report that I saw, ABC News shouted out, "Why are you here?" He said he's here for Sean Combs. So, it's to assume that he's here for him. On his way out, he didn't say anything.
What was the mood in the overflow?
the mood in the, can you imagine? You're just sitting there in the overflow. You don't even get to be in the main room. And then Kanye West walks in, not even thinking about it. So it's definitely one of surprise, one of just like, what is going on here. But I will get some more details for you. I was, trying to get as much details as I could before this. But as far as I know, that's what everybody from the overflow ran down after he left, and just to catch him walking out as well.
Well, we
Nick,
definitely we expected we expected that we would see, pomp and circumstance, if you will, at this trial. We expected this, but I definitely didn't expect that Kanye West would just show up, sit in an overflow room for a few minutes, and then leave. So prosecutors and defense, they did not see him, correct?
Correct, because they are not in the overflow room.
And
now
the jury.
I did hear, and I'm still, working to confirm this, but I did hear that he was escorted in by Donaldson and one of Combs's children. So maybe there was a coordination between them with Kanye being really good friends with Combs in order to be able to get him to come inside. We also did hear yesterday that he landed in New Jersey, and so one can only think, what are you doing in New Jersey?
So let me ask the three of you, does Kanye's appearance at court today help the defense or help the prosecution? Candace?
Really good question, Jay.
You know what? Go ahead.
No, go ahead, Candace.
You know what? I think it helps neither. I mean, the fact that the jury did not see him and should not hear about it later, which I think that would be very difficult once all these jurors get back home, it doesn't matter, because ultimately it's up to those 12 jurors. And at the end of the day, if this is the celebrity that you can get to support you, it's not going to bode well for your defense because of his reputation. So that's just the bottom line.
Yeah, that's what I was going to say. Like back in the day, Kanye West, maybe, but the nowadays Kanye West, that's the person supporting. I don't think it would play in his favor, given Kanye West's own issues that he has going on.
Gentrix, what do you think?
I completely agree with them. When you think of the list of celebrities that Combs would have at all his parties, the people that he was around, and to hear the silence that is coming from many of them, and then the one person who, honestly, when it comes to the media's opinion, the public's opinion, they don't really think too highly of Kanye. So to have that as the only person coming in, at least publicly, to support you, I don't know what message really that's sending.
Well, let's go back inside the courtroom for a second with Jane on the stand.
Exactly.
And Candace, you were talking about, this horn just beeping. And after a while, her testimony is what I think credibility is a question here, because she admitted to getting rent payment, getting her attorney's fees paid for by Sean Combs. How isn't that a conflict of interest?
Yeah, it is a conflict of interest on some levels, but legally not. Just a conflict of interest in terms of one's kind of or moral compass, yes. But legally, she's okay in that regard. But if I'm a juror, I'm looking at her and I'm saying, well, what is this? Because she, at many points, she did not know what it was. I also think that there were some times, especially yesterday, where she just, at one point, she said, I don't know. It just sounded like she was just tired. Like, please get me off the stand. I'm really kind of done here. She started sassing Tinny Garagos, and she really just made it clear, right? I see Gentrix saying yes. She just made it clear. Can this be over? And so I think that point, we already knew that it should have been over. So it was just one day too much.
She had immunity. So is there any thinking that the prosecution had to compel her to take the stand, knowing that she might not be the perfect witness for the prosecution?
Oh, absolutely. And that was a point of contention for the defense, who said, listen, she's just on here because she's able to get immunity. She's kind of just completing this process to get immunity so that she won't be in trouble, but that she's really lying on the stand. That was more than insinuated. So I think that that was also an issue too, because, you know, if you're going to get immunity, why not? Because she was carrying drugs across state lines. She was involved in prostitutes. But then because her testimony was not that effective and not that clear, that, you know, they were saying, hey, you know what? She's just on here ultimately to get immunity. Like, what she's saying is inconsequential. She's here for that end goal, here for herself.
We should also point out that she said on the witness stand that she still loves Diddy. We heard that Diddy is still paying for some of her legal and or housing expenses. That came out on the witness stand under oath.
Oh, absolutely. And a real surprise for everybody who was in the courtroom, in the spillover room. Like, who is that making sense for? The one way you could look at it is, all right, they have this love contract that was, you know, lasting for 2 years. On the other hand, I think that it really shows power and control that is still exerted by Sean Combs. There's no way around it. If you are financially still bound to someone, we're talking about legal expenses, very, very expensive legal expenses, as well as this $10,000 rent. You are talking about someone who, even without, you know, saying anything, there's got to be some type of control there. What control there is, I don't know, because if he signed up for thinking that she was going to testify in his favor, that did not happen. So, you know, nothing.
But does this speak to the RICO?
And let me add to that. Let me play devil's advocate. You said it could be perceived as Combs having some kind of control. Could it also be perceived as someone who is willing to continue accepting financial resources from someone, knowing that they can easily reject it? A choice that she is making.
I think so. You know, there was one point on the stand yesterday, and a couple of these witnesses have said, you know, if I could give all the money back, I would, in order to get my life where it was. And so when Tinny said, okay, would you give back that $10,000 for rent? And she just paused, because that is a big contention. She's getting that paid, and she could not really answer, because she's been fighting for that $10,000. So I think that you're right in that, listen, could this potentially be seen as just a money grab? She's getting $10,000 from Sean. She's getting almost $5,000 from someone else, the baby's father, and $15,000. I think that there's just a point where the jury would have I can't relate to that, you know, disposition, right? We've got a masseuse on the jury. We've got a deli worker. We've got some, you know, financial analysts. Is that relatable? I just think overall, her testimony did not stick it well for me. Not at all.
And Nicole, you brought up the point of the day. Does this have anything to do with the RICO?
I'm always asking, when we do these, I'm looking for RICO evidence.
Yeah. Yeah, you are correct. Not at all. The only thing that we can talk about is if the jurors have the opportunity to think or look back at their notes at Dawn Hughes, to think about the psychological trauma that perhaps she's displaying, and that's why she's so confused. That's why she can't remember. And then we get into the coercion, and that she was someone who just psychologically was in a position where she was unable to make good decisions for herself, where she was unable to understand what was going on. And that's why they wanted to bring Dawn Hughes. Ultimately, the judge said, no, we're not going to bring her back. But in that regard, yes. But I think that that's a big stretch for the jurors to try to marry all of that together at this point.
And let's talk about the jury for a minute. Juror number six. There's been some back and forth. The judge questioning that juror. What is going on with juror number 6?
Gentrix, you've been in the courtroom. What can you tell us?
Yes, there was an update today actually where they revealed what that issue is with juror number 6. They said it was a residency issue. So and that's pretty much as you know, the judge was trying to say. He said he lives in the Bronx, and then, you know, maybe 2 weeks later he moved. So it's just, you know, they're kind of bringing up the idea of, if he's not even in this jurisdiction, how can he be on the jury. And so what the judge was trying to say was that it was a minor issue. We don't know where he lives now. We know that when he did the voir dire, when it was during the jury selection, he said he lives in the Bronx with his wife and his kid. And so the defense really is saying that this is a minimal issue here. You know, if he's still during the voir dire, he was honest throughout this entire case. He's been attentive. You know, Mark Ignifilo said this is one of the best juries and the most diverse juries I've seen in my 35 years. They come on time. And so for 5 weeks in, for them to just scrap him and, you know, put in the alternate, it doesn't really make sense. And it kind of seemed like Judge Subramanian was leaning towards that too. He said that it would be you know, it will be a minimal issue, really. And so he said he's going to look over it during lunch and make his decision then. But for the prosecution, what they want to do is bring him in at the end of the day to ask him a bit, you know, some more questions, maybe some clarifying questions, maybe something like his employer, it needed him to live in a certain area, and therefore, you know, maybe that can explain it. And so
was it the prosecution that was kind of pushing for this juror to be removed?
Exactly. And Judge Subramanian also revealed how they even found out that there was this residency issue, is that he was talking to one of the court staff, and this issue slipped out. I guess it came out in just casual conversation, and then the court staff told the court, and that's when, you know, the government then thought that it would be improper for him to keep going, and they raised this issue with the judge.
And for context, the defense did not want this juror removed because
exactly.
I understand he's the only black male on the jury.
He's not the only black male, but he's one of the black men on the jury. Yeah. This is I believe there's, I don't want to put a number on it, but there's definitely a couple more black men who are on that jury. And that jury consists of, the 12 main jurors consist of more men on there than women also. So who knows if that, you know, helped the defense in their case. But yeah, so the judge said that he's going to look at that at the end of the day and see how they want to go with this.
Candace, the defense is going to start putting on its case. Is this an uphill battle? Do you think they've made decent amount of progress during the prosecution putting on its case?
Listen, I think that they've made a decent amount of progress, especially on cross. They've been very good at what they've been doing. Nicole Westmoreland and Tinny Garagos, I mean, all of the attorneys across the spectrum are amazing. But when they go to impeach a witness, they know how to do it, and they know how to do it well. And it's interesting to see their styles. I also want to say that, you know, the defense is very good at their objections. They are on this case. One person might say on the one hand, they're good in the objections. The other, another person might say, okay, they're objecting so much. What are they trying to hide and not get in? But they are definitely doing their job. And I just want to piggyback off of what Gentrix said. One of the things that also came up in regards to this juror number 6, was that this is an issue that on appeal, which we know will be appealed, that you can't bring up. And Sean Combs agreed that, hey, you know what? Yes, this will not be an issue, this juror on appeal, because what attorneys will do is as soon as they sit down on the first day, they have a list of appeal issues. So they, in case it doesn't go the way that they want. And I would say that on one issue, when it comes to the defense, that crossing someone for purposes of prostitution or cross state lines, I think even the defense is ready to say, we're going to give that up. Like, there's no way we can convince a jury otherwise. And that's up to 10 years. So he might get, 3 years. It's not a lot. The math is okay there. But they will have a lot of work on the other side when they bring their witnesses. Hopefully there are character witnesses. If I'm a defense attorney, do we have a character witness that can speak on behalf of Sean? Do we have a forensic psychologist that can talk about what was going on with Sean and his drug addiction, his sex addiction?
Does Diddy take the stand?
I don't think so. Had KK taken the stand for the prosecution, I would have opened the door more for Diddy to take the stand, but she did not come for the prosecution.
Well, we heard the defense attorney saying that he was eager to take the stand. I don't think that they'll have him do so, but I heard he's eager to, because who better to clear your name but yourself? So that was put out there. I want to say last week, Mark Ignifilo said that Sean was eager to take that stand.
Yeah, you know, that.
We're going to have to wrap it up there, folks.
All right.
Candace Kelley, our esteemed legal analyst. Gentrix Shanga, our superstar producer inside the courtroom, and my wonderful co-host, Nicole Johnson. Thank you so much for putting in another episode. I'm your co-host, Jay Dow. We're going to stay at it. Another episode of Dissecting Diddy next week. We are so glad that you could join us. We'll see you soon. Take care.
Bye.